everybody, I am NicoD. So everybody who follows this channel knows that I review single board computers, and to review single board computers you need a lot of SD cards. So I've got a lot of micro SD cards, some from Samsung, one from Adata, some no brands, and some from SanDisk. So until now I was mostly using Samsung Evo Plus SD cards. I was used to it, they last for a long time, I've never had one fail, so I kept on buying these. So these work great with most SBCs, but the SD card readers of SBCs are mostly very slow. So the fastest SD card reader of an SBC until now was the NanoPi M4, which could do 70 megabytes reads and also 70 megabytes writes, of course. But this cannot do 70 megabytes writes, so this is actually slow in the write speed while the read speed are very good. So now I have gotten the NVIDIA Jetson Nano to review, and this has got a fast SD card reader. So I was using a Samsung Evo Plus SD card on my NVIDIA Jetson Nano, and it was very slow to work with. So I looked for another SD card that has faster write speeds, and I came up on this, the SanDisk Extreme. So this has got read speeds of up to 160 megabytes and write speeds up to 90 megabytes per second. So I only have got this. This is a USB 3 SD card reader, but this only goes up to 72 megabytes per second. So most of my SD cards can top out the read speed over here, but the write speed not. So we will compare the write and read speeds of all my different micro SD cards. So here we go! So I will start with a no brand 4GB SD card. I have gotten this with my drone from the China Express, so it is for sure a Chinese SD card. So here we can see what we don't want to see. So we want the read and write speed curves to be very flat, and of course we want it as high as possible. And as you can see, here it is very slow. So this one does 16.4 megabytes per second average read speed. But if we look at the bar, then we see that there is a big dip towards 6 megabytes per second. We do not want that. We want a flat curve so that the writes and the read speeds are continuously at the same speed. So you can also see all these fine lines with dots. This means the reaction time of the SD card, and here it is very bad. A lot of dots are very high, above 5 milliseconds, 6 milliseconds, so this is a bad SD card. So now we have seen how a bad SD card looks like. So now an 8GB no brand SD card, so this performs a little bit better than the 4GB one, but not that much. So as you can see, the average read rate is very flat, so it is 18 megabytes per second, but the write speed is very uneven and it is 12.8 megabytes per second. So for example, for a camera, a flat write speed is very important. If it dips under the speed that it needs to record the video, then it will stutter or it will just fail the recording. So even for the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus, which has got a slow SD card reader, these SD cards are not good enough, so we always want to top out our SD card reader speeds. Now two 16GB SD cards against each other, so the 16GB SanDisk Edge and the 16GB Adata. So these are a lot better than the previous ones. So they top out the read speed of my USB 3 SD card reader at 72 or 73 megabytes per second, but the write speed is very slow of both. So 14.2 megabytes per second for the SanDisk Edge and 23 megabytes per second for the Adata. For the Raspberry Pi 4, for example, which has got a read speed of maximum 40 megabytes per second and a write speed of maximum 20 megabytes per second, so the Adata is just sufficient for the Raspberry Pi 4. But for a camera, for example, these are useless. Only for 1080p video it could be used, but not anything higher. Now to 64GB SD cards, so the SanDisk Ultra and the Samsung Evo Plus. The SanDisk Ultra does very bad in the write speed, only 13 megabytes per second. This is very bad for a 64GB SD card. I will never buy these again. So the 64GB Samsung Evo Plus does better in the write speed, but it does have a problem. As you can see, the write curve isn't flat at all. It dips down to 24 megabytes per second, so this isn't very good, certainly not for a camera. I am using such an SD card for my camera and I cannot film at 4K with it. Now I know why. I swore by these cards. I always bought the Samsung Evo Plus. I've got about 10 of these, but now I will think again before buying another one. Now my two best SD cards. So again, a SanDisk Ultra of 64GB, but this one has got a different color. So I don't know what the difference is, but this one performs a lot better. So this has got an average write speed of 38 megabytes per second, and it is a very steady line, so this is very good. But my other SD card, the 128GB SanDisk Extreme, does a lot better. So this maxes out the write speed at 68 megabytes per second, but it can do a lot better. This is just the limit of my USB 3 SD card reader. So I tried filming with it at 4K with my camera, it works like a charm. And I am now using it on the NVIDIA Jetson Nano, and it is a world of difference. Installing software goes a lot faster, compiling software goes a lot faster, working with it is a lot faster, so I'm extremely happy with this SD card. I have bought this card very cheap at Alternate, it was 30 euros, but I checked again now and the price has gone up and they are sold out also. I do want to buy a few more of these cards in the future. So I can already tell you something about the NVIDIA Jetson Nano. So the read-write speeds of the SD card of that is the best of all my SBCs. So with that it can do 80 megabytes per second reads and 80 megabytes per second writes with this SD card. I also tested different file systems on the same SD cards. So exFAT, FAT32, NTFS and ext4. Only FAT32 performs worse than all the others. So formatting in FAT32 isn't the best if you need high speeds. There are of course a lot of fake SD cards on the market, so be very careful for that. There are ways to test if they are real, and you can also see it on the package. Also on the back of the SD card there should be a serial number, and many times you can see it on the printing of the SD card itself. So my conclusion is most of the SD cards have a very good read speed, but the write speed of many isn't that good. So it is best to have an SD card that maxes out the SD card reader on your device, so it can be important to well investigate what's faster and what fits your device. Certainly for a 4K camera the write speeds are very important. So that's it for today. I hope you all liked my video. Thank you all for watching. Next will be the NanoPi M4 version 2. And also of course the NVIDIA Jetson Nano. So all subscribe to my channel. See you all later. Bye!